whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and whoever you are lucky enough to be doing it to. I'm Bushka on Blitz, and I am back with the tank I said I'd never review. This is the Chi-Ri, the Tier 7 Japanese autoloader. It's got other guns, but I'm running the autoloader on it because it is what makes the tank interesting and unique. You don't have to run that, but I think you should be reviewing it and looking at it as an autoloader tank. A couple of bits of housekeeping. This is been requested so much on Twitter. There has been a consistent campaign from a bunch of llamas on there to get this thing reviewed, and I eventually gave in because they sold it for I think it was a 30% discount on the Asia server. So I ponied up the credits and moved along with life. And look, I've got to be honest with you, I'm not a particularly big fan of the tank. I wasn't a big fan of it beforehand, and I'm not a particularly big fan of it since. I'm doing very well in the tank, up over 80% and about 2,000 average damage at tier 7. But it's more because, you know, once you get to a certain level in this game, you learn how to play the tanks and you learn how to give yourself every opportunity to be successful, and you can be a little bit more patient. And it's not a tank for beginners. Now, this is also the month of Bushka Insanity, where I'm doing a review or a video or a stream every single day for the entire month. And if you haven't already heard, I think we're 4 or 5 days into it now. I've had a bit of content every day. It's been going really well. I hope you would consider supporting the channel. If you haven't heard about that already, check out the Patreon link that I'll pop up here. From as little as $1 a month, you can support the channel and help me keep doing this on a permanent basis. But I digress. So I'm not a particularly huge fan of the tank, though I've figured out exactly how to be successful with it. And I'm going to show you 2 videos today. I'm going to move away from the one video and slowing it down and all that for this particular tank, because I think it's important that we look at it and from 2 perspectives. Once in a game like this, where you are a tier 7 and a tier 8 match, and once where we're the top tier. Now, the problem you're going to have with this tank, although it's got amazing damage per minute, exactly the same as a Comet, same alpha, same rate of fire, 15 rounds per minute, it does it in a very different manner. Because it is an autoloader, it's a 3-clip autoloader, you can have insane burst, but your penetration numbers are pretty average, and you're running 155, I think it is, millimeters a pen on your standard AP rounds, and good old 186 millimeters a pen on your premium ammunition. Now, when you run in your tier 8 heavy tanks, as there is a bundle of them in this game, you're going to find you're going to struggle. Now, the Comet, while it doesn't have amazing pen, it has oodles of mobility. It gets about the place, and it can put that gun to bear very successfully because it's a low-profile, sneaky tank with good camo and great speed and wonderful bits of mobility. You can't with this tank. You're as big as a house. You are so flimsy. You can be penetrated by HE shells from most decent caliber weapons of 100 millimeters and up, and you're very, very slow. Your top speed is 42 kilometers an hour, but in actuality, you'll very rarely get there. And you'll note here, we're just too... I figure I'm going to take 1 hit there to get that last shot and get the kill shot. We actually take 2. And you can see both those shots straight through. You're never going to bounce bugger all in this tank. You're a support tank. That's how you're going to be successful in this tank. Even when you are the top tier, you cannot be a bully. This is not a Comet. It doesn't have the mobility. It is not a T-43. Not only does it not have the mobility, it doesn't have the armor profile. It is not a KV-13, which, although it's not a particularly quick and agile tank, has a very, very strong bouncy profile. It's like an IS, but as a medium tank. Look at all the red from these tanks. I'm basically forced to turn around and try and track heavy tanks to give shots for the guys behind me. And that's all right if you're a support tank. And you can see, there we go, we tracked the IS-3 Defender, and we're just keeping him sat there for as long as possible. That's other people putting fire into him while we've got him locked up. But look at the red. That's the side of an IS-3 Defender. Obviously, we're using HE there. But that's AP on the side of a T-34. It's all red. It's all very difficult for pens because unless they're... And that's premium ammunition, by the way. I will say one thing. It's better to have AP as a premium round than anything else, I think, if you can get it. Because AP normalizes the most against plate armor. So you'll actually get a lot more value for your money firing AP at red targets than you will at than you will other rounds. It'll normalise a greater amount. I think it's 7 degrees or 5 degrees. So it gives you a better opportunity to pen. Now you can see here, I can't do anything to that bloke. So I'm going to track him for the tanks behind me and just keep him still. He's blowing tracks, he's blowing kits. And the Jagdpanther 2 behind me is finally going to turn around and hit him. And this isn't an amazing game. I'm only doing about 1,300 damage or so in this game. But it's just showing you, if you were a new player and you were walking up to this tank and you would be panicking and losing your gear because you can't pen them, you can't bounce shots. It's almost like it's the tier 7 version of the Leopard PTA, which has recently been buffed, and I will be trying to get a hold of that to do some more testing on that as well. I mean, look at all that. That's with premium rounds. I'm having to go through the drive wheel on an IS-6 with premium ammo just to do any damage. So that's where it's at tier 8. Your pen problems are big, and your mobility problem. Look at this. This is, I mean, it's like driving Miss Daisy, this thing. It's massive, it's slow. It does have 10 degrees of gun depression, which it needs because it really cannot be putting shots in any other way. You've got to really play this as a support tank. And you're going to see in the next game when we're on Lost Temple, we do just that, and we're quite successful with it because we are the top tier, and we can bring our DPM to bear. Now, if you can bring the DPM to bear, well, boom, you are killing it. Because the tank runs 2,400 damage per minute, which is really quite special. That's the same as the Comet. The Comet can apply it a lot easier because the Comet is a lower profile tank. It's got more gun depression, which is quite hilarious. It's a lot quicker. It's got better camo. It's a lot more mobile in terms of traverse. You know, this is I think it's a 42 ton tank, and it's got 550 horsepower, which is just not much. And your ground resistance stats aren't much chop either. So you're going to struggle mobility-wise. I mean, you can see here we're getting out. We're on Lost Temple. And what I really want you to take note of here, you've got to be smart with the tank. You've got to be smart with this tank. It can be successful. And I played all the games just about in this tank solo because what I wanted to do was get a real feel for how a challenging tank like this could be successful in the hands of even guys that are 48 to 50% win rates. And it's a challenge. It's not an easy tank to drive by any stretch of the imagination. And I'm only about 20 odd games into it, and I think we're running just over 80% and about 2k damage. But that doesn't feel sustainable to me. If I start platooning, it'll be sustainable, but it doesn't feel sustainable solo. So here we go. You'll note, I am not at the front. I'm not going to go anywhere near the front. And the reason is, everything there will pen me, and you don't have the speed to get out of trouble once you get into it. If you commit with this tank to a course of action, it is very, very difficult to change course mid-stride and actually be successful somewhere else. Everyone's rolling here. There's no shots for me, and I don't have the turret to go hull down. I'm figuring they're going to come around the other side, so I push back here, and I'm going to support my teammate back here. You can see there's an SU-100 rolling around down the back here as well, and I'm going to support them and try and put shots in to the SP-1C that comes screaming along here. Now, the SP-1C has no armour either, but you can see the mobility on that tank. It's a lunatic's mobile. It's like a clown car. You're going around at 3 million miles an hour. You've got a double shot with 250 alpha on each. Whereas with this tank, you can see how long you've got to sit still to get rid of all 3 shots. I'd much rather, if I could suggest one thing to the developers with this tank, it would be cut it down to a 2-round autoloader and make both of those shots do 240 average alpha instead of having 3 shots at 160, because exposing this tank for any great length of time is very difficult. Now, we want to keep this SU-100 alive, because basically, if he's alive, we're not alone down here, and I don't want to be alone at any point in time in this world. There we go. So we've got rid of him. Now we're going to go to what is the key part of the map for me. And we're going to use the gun depression on the tank and that incredible rate of fire and damage per minute to really put it away. But you're still going to see we'll bounce a lot. And we're using AP rounds here. Look at that. 2 shots right into the side of a T-29. we tracked him once. I mean, they weren't particularly bad shots. For a tank that says it's 0.36 dispersion, it doesn't feel like a 0.36 dispersion tank. In fact, it feels a lot more like a Russian heavy sniping, the way it... And it could be something to do with the autoloader, because obviously in an autoloader, when you fire, the bloom then goes out again, like you've just fired a shot, because you have. And when you're firing the next round, it's right there in the tank, coming out the barrel. Well, it's obviously going to be a less accurate round. And for that reason, I'd much rather it have a 2-shot clip, because you can take a little bit more time with that. If you're trying to do that over 3 rounds, you can really expose yourself. But you see what we've done here. We've moved from one end of the map, didn't find shots, to the other. We've used tanks that are engaging other tanks as our primary targets. We're not catching and killing our own damage here. We're very much running off the other tanks, and it's one of the reasons why you want to keep your teammates alive in this, and you want to reset your camo at all times. I mean, look at it when it works. You're hitting them for big 500 damage bursts, and no tank can sustain that kind of damage at this tier. When it works, happy days, it's superb, but goodness me, it's slow and methodical and just really tough. And there we go, there's our 3rd kill. And we're going to get this Kuromoro Mini too. So, I guess the essence of this review should be this. It's not an easy tank to drive. It's certainly not a tank for novices. You have to be very, very map aware. You have to be very good at playing off other teammates and being a support tank. And I think if you're good at actually rolling tanks as a stock tank, where you learn that you have to follow the big guys and basically pick up the pieces where you can, because you've got stock guns and stock crew, you've got to play this tank like that. Because even when you've got the top gun and the top crew and 100% skills and you're running all the gear and everything else, it's still very fragile and it's still very slow. So if you push hard as the tip of the spear, every shot's going to go into you. And if you find a tank in front of you and you want to put shots into it, and you've got to sit still to finish off a full 3-round clip, you're going to get other targets drawn to you. And by the time you finish off and start pulling back, as you saw in that Black Goldville map, I wanted to finish off that SU-100M. They've got time to turn to you, and they've got time to actually aim up and release. And a couple of big tier 8 heavies firing 400 alphas is going to fill you up for 800, which is exactly what happened to me. So I think it's a good tank to go through, and you can play it successfully, but it's certainly not a star. It's not going to be the star of the show unless you play it very, very conservatively and you become a very, very good support tank. And that's probably not a bad thing. And I actually enjoyed driving it because I like the challenge. It's something different. When you've played as many games as I have, when you've driven as many tanks as I have, you get a bit bored of the same old day in, day out. And that's why we're rolling through a few different styles of reviews, like the Stug. The IS-7 has been I haven't played much in the way of heavies for ages. The Chi-Ri, obviously, a big thing. We're going to be doing more of those style of reviews. The DW2 I'm actually going to do, and I've come full circle on that one. Anyway, I'm Bushka on Blitz. I hope that was useful for you guys, especially if you're going up the Japanese medium line. It's a tough line. The STB one at the top I adore, and I think it's well worth the grind. I didn't like the Type 61, and I haven't done the STA one yet, but I'm going to. Anyway, I'm Bushka on Blitz. As always, if you'd like to sponsor the channel, please click on the link to go to Patreon. There's lots of other videos being posted recently, so check out all the content you like. Subscribe, like the video, leave your comments below. I try to answer all I can. Thanks very much, guys. You've been wonderful, and you've been hugely supportive of the channel. I look forward to seeing you out there, and stay safe on the battlefield.